Okay, welcome back to Believe You Are a Good Mom with Emily Wardrop. And today it's with Laura Hernandez. Hernandez. Laura
Hernandez.
Hernandez. I am so excited to have you meet Laura. I feel like I just barely met Laura. So this is fun for me and for all of you listeners. And if you're her listeners, then welcome to meeting me. So okay, this is the Believe You Are a Good Mom podcast, because if you are a mom, you are a good mom. And if you believe that, then you will live into that. So that is my message in a nutshell. Laura, introduce yourself and tell us what your message is.
Yeah, I'm super excited to be here with you. So thank you for having me. Well, I'm Laura, and we live in the Dallas area, and my husband and I have 10 kiddos, and going from 4 kids in 1 year to 8 kids in that same year, along with a cross-country move, is kind of brought the need for systems into my life. We were definitely living in survival mode and kind of realized we can't do that anymore. But nothing was written out there for families of 8, with some adopted, some special needs, some homeschooling, some public school. You just moved across the country, you're living in a rental house while renovating a new house. Nobody wrote a book on that yet.
Yeah.
And so I had to kind of create our own systems. And that process that I went to is now what I get to help other moms go through and help them kind of reprioritize their life to make sure that they're not living a reactionary life, but they have a plan in place to be intentional with their people and their time.
So awesome. Reactionary. That's one of my buzzwords this year that I'm working on. To not
be reactionary
parenting, but intentional is what you just said. Yeah.
Yeah.
I forget what the word that I'm trying to remember to redirect to. I can't think when the red record button is running. So, okay. So 10 kids, that's a lot.
Right? It is a lot.
And the oldest is 16. The youngest is 3. So you still have some littles, some teenagers, some special needs, some autism, some cats and dogs and land and all the things.
And a partridge in a pear tree. Yeah.
Yeah. Seriously. Yeah. That is wild. Okay. So teach us about systems, because the main thing I think when you tell me all of that is I have no idea how you do that. And I've heard people say that to me too. I have no idea how you do that. And I decided I have no idea how anybody does anything. Like, we're all living our own life and our own experiences. That is like the real deal, right? We're all going through a lot. So teach us about systems and how that can get us out of survival mode and into what? Thrival mode?
Right. Into it's living. I mean, I don't want to say living your best life, because I feel like that's so cliche, but yeah. I mean, really fulfilling who you are made to be with your people, and serving them best that you possibly can. Like all of those things that you just kind of dream about, like a perfect little life for yourself, trying to get there as much as possible. Awesome. Not saying that anything in your life will ever go perfectly, because it never does, but we can make it set up so that you get the best shot at it. Right. Mm-hmm. So many of my mamas, even though we're all going through so many different things and our circumstances are so different, a lot of us are just living very reactionary lifestyle. I feel like our culture has really just set us up for this failure of being able to live intentionally with our people. So we are just going from thing to thing, from soccer to piano practice to like, oh my goodness, we've got to put our kids in all these things and have all these different things that we do, and our house has to look perfect while we're doing them, and all of that. And so what I really try to help moms with is just realize what's important to you, and what's important to you and for your people is very different than the person next door and what they value. And yet at the same time, we're trying to live up to everyone else's standards. Yes. And so I love just helping moms kind of get focused on what they really believe is important for their kids. I found that one of the things that I was like, oh, hands down for my kiddos is scripture memory. Like I want them to know the Bible, and I want them to know truth. And a lot of that would just get pushed to the wayside. And I would easily die on that hill of like, this is the most important thing. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, at the same time, I'm not teaching it to them. We're not memorizing scripture together. So what does that say? Like nothing in my schedule matched up with what I felt like was most important.
Yes.
And so I think just taking that moment to assess what we're really doing and what we really want to be done, and then kind of switching things up and creating systems around that so we can really live intentionally with our people.
Awesome. That's so good. That's what we come back to all the time. Me and my husband, I mean by we. is that we're like, for instance, right now he's back on his wanting to help my son with his homework kick. And we're back, always come back to, well, when do we have us time? You know, we're always trying to figure out where in our life we like, I need my alone time and we need our us time, but all the time is just taken up with kids if you let it, you know, unintentionally. And so putting those systems in place, like a bedtime schedule, is like an uphill battle I've been fighting for 8 years. I'm like, if we put the kids to bed at this time, then we would actually be awake still after they fall asleep and we could have some time together. And if we did this, then we could that and all the things. Right. And so I feel like actually implementing a system has like been, like I said, an uphill battle. So how would you help me with that?
Well, let's talk about bedtime routine. What time do you want them in bed?
Okay. I want them to be asleep at 9. I want to go upstairs. Let me tell you my ideal schedule that I wish we would do. Okay.
Let's do it.
So they're asleep at 9, 8:30. We're going. Hold on. Now I forget. Cause again, that red dot that says recording, it's like only half my brain functions when the red dot is on. Okay. So what we want to do is some homework time, some scripture time, and then get up to bed and be asleep at 9:00. So we usually work it backwards like that. And I have it written down somewhere, you know, and in fact, we just talked about it again yesterday and it sounded like we were both on the same page and super committed to it. And then last night happened, right?
What are your reminders that you have leading up to that?
Oh, well, I used to have them on my phone and I've turned them off. I'm going to check and see if they're still even there.
Yeah, can we just do this? It's kind of like a mock coaching call really quick.
Yeah, let's do for sure.
Okay. So you want your kids.
Oh yeah, here we go. Okay. Yay. I'm turning them back on. This is a step in the right direction.
It is.
So 8:00 is homework reading, which means I'm reading with the girls. I have one son and then a whole bunch of girls. And so my husband works with my son on his actual homework, like doing math or something. And then the rest of us have reading time at 8:00. At 8:30 is sing scriptures, come follow me, family bedtime prayer. That's all on my reminder. So that like, if I forget what's happening, my phone tells me what I'm supposed to be doing right now. And then at 9:00, we go upstairs. Oh, see, I got it a half hour off here. They're asleep by 9:30. So upstairs, teeth, potty, get in bed. Well, you see, this is a system that really needs some work. Whenevs. Food is like whatevs around here.
Like it's typically around 6?
No, they get home from school at 3:30 and want a snack. So if they eat that after school snack, then they like, if I make any effort to make dinner at a normal dinner time, then they won't eat it because they just had their after school snack. So they just want like a before bed snack. So it's almost like dinner has been pushed to like 7 or 7:30 right before homework time. That even sounds like a normal time for eating dinner though, because it's more like in the legit how it really works. What it really looks like is like, oh my gosh, it's 9 p.m. Nobody's eaten. Nobody's done it. It's 9:00 already. Have some ramen and get in bed already. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. And so the problem is you talk about values and like aligning our schedules with what we actually value. We value fun and our schedule shows it. And so we're all about like, I kind of feel like we're adult kids raising kids. Like we're just big kids. We're like, there's no adulting happening around here.
I 100% understand that.
Okay, there you go.
I feel like there's space and grace for all of that. And one of the reasons I realized that I need alarms on my phone is because I would get caught up in the day and we'd be outside swimming. I'd be like, oh my gosh, nobody's eaten yet. What are we going to do? Like, it's now bedtime and I have to make dinner and I have to, all of that feels so overwhelming night after night.
Yes.
And so on the flip side of that, knowing the piece that comes from having a plan in play that we can follow and not to be rigid or like super structured about it, but just having guidelines for it has given so much freedom to like really live up the time that's not already called for. So living up the time between school getting out and 7 p.m. when you guys are going to have dinner, like, and enjoying each other and bringing kids into the kitchen and allowing them to help you get ready for evening time. And then you guys can eat at 7. And then after that, everybody kind of helps clean up and then you do your homework and reading and all of that. And then everybody gets to bed. so I love having those reminders of like, so if you're eating dinner at 7, at 6:30, possibly, you would need to be in the kitchen making dinner. So that's what I would set my alarm for, 6:30. And then you're making dinner and kids come sit down and eat. And then you guys move into homework and reading and then head to bed. Like having all that just kind of flow out of that one reminder and that one kind of pillar in your evening, you know?
Yeah. Okay. So tell me again what time I'm supposed to be doing what?
Well, if you set your alarm for 6:30.
Oh, okay.
To start making dinner.
All right. I have a 6:30 alarm to go to gymnastics. See, this is what I'm talking about. This is what you were talking about. Is there so many rush off all the different things? And in our family, like we resist that big time. Like my daughter literally had to do a Google search herself with her voice because she couldn't even type yet. Like she can't spell. When she's like looking up on Google with her voice, like gymnastics like, and so she found a place herself. Like that is why we go to gymnastics, because I resist that so bad. Like the run around, the what do I call it? The chauffeur mom. Like I am not ready to be a chauffeur mom. And so even without that, I still feel like all the things. Anyway, okay. So tell me again. 6:30, I'm cooking dinner, and then 7
and if
we
you have
eat.
activities like even just having crock pot stuff ready, like you having space in your morning,
this
afternoon.
is a whole coaching session for another time about food. We can't even open up that can of worms. Anyway, so let's get back to theory. We're done with my coaching. That was great.
Okay.
That was helpful. It's a little yogurt sample size, right?
Yes. Yes.
So people have an idea of what it's like to coach with you. What else should we talk about? Okay, let's talk about this idea that it's not cookie cutter. So what you just did for me is you asked me questions about what it looks like at my house, and then you can customize it to me and to our values.
Yes.
And like how we want to be spending our time. I love that so much because like you said, there's no book that told you how to do it. So when I became a mom, I wanted the books. I needed to be told what to do because I had this thought, I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know how to do this. And so I read all the books, and all the books confused me even more because they all say different things. And I wasn't doing any of them. So I made it mean that I was a bad mom. And that's a terrible place to be mothering from, believing that you're a bad mom. So that's why I'm all about believing that you are a good mom. And then what do you want to do? And that's the same thing I do in my coaching too, is that I first of all put on my coaching hat instead of my crazed human mom, messy mom. That's what I call myself. Confessions of a Messy Mom is what I should have called this podcast. Right? Anyway, maybe that's what I'll call this episode. Okay. Point is, it's not cookie cutter. Like every person is so individual. It's something I'm so fascinated by. I love people watching and just looking at how different people look. Imagine how different people like are in their heads, and it's so fascinating. But then we think that there should be a set schedule that works for everyone. Like, why do we think that?
Yeah, there's no way. Because then you produce all these people that are so incredibly different. Yes. And they all have different desires and different interests. And like, so you could have a kid like in soccer every day and that'd be like what your family values, and but that's not at all. Like I would want to jump off a bridge if that was the case for us. Like I'm very much like you and not wanting to have a very busy schedule just because I've seen the chaos that kind of stems from that and the chaos in me. And therefore I'm not showing up as my best self as their mama. And so really just keeping our schedule calm has allowed for calm in our home and calm in our lives and calm with me. And so I can show up to be the best when that happens.
Yeah. And then some people love it. Like they want their kids in all the things because that's what they want to do.
Yeah,
so more power to them, and they can figure that out, because the whole point is that there's no one size fits all.
Yes.
And there's no one and done. That's a big thing. I've been on this big kick lately that there's no one and done, and especially raising kids, because they phase out of things all the time. Like you get in a groove and then something changes because they slept last night and now they're a whole different person this morning. It's like, what happened to my sweet little, and now she's like going through something, and they're all always going through something. And so, yeah, just to be flexible. Somehow, like when you say systems, in my mind, that sounds so unflexible.
Yeah, no, it's not. I because we're kind of moving with it. So I have my special needs buddies. I feel like you have to be flexible. I mean, you just never know what the day is going to bring. And nothing is ever going to go perfectly as planned. So I can create a very structured schedule for our day or for our evening or whatever, or for our week. And when we get there, it's never going to be as beautiful as it is on paper. And so there has to be so much flexibility in that.
So what are your thoughts when that happens? Like your alarm goes off at 6:30 to make dinner, but it's, this guy's having a complete breakdown and that one's hitting his brother and like the chaos. Like what are your thoughts?
So I definitely think planning for that in advance. Like I know that when my kids get home, everything in our house like rises in stress level just because our 3 special buddies are a lot. They're really difficult. There's many days they were very difficult. And so I want to have all of the like nitty gritty chopping of vegetables, whatever those things are to prep for dinner, already done. So that way I'm just throwing things in a pan. And I can also say to my oldest, like, hey, would you go in there and get dinner started? It's already ready to go in the fridge. All you have to do is XYZ and it'll be ready. The delegating out to other kiddos is super important as well, because everything's not relying on me to go smoothly. So if I need to pause and stop my little agenda here and go sit down with a kid and snuggle for a little bit, like that's okay to do. Speaking of nothing going as planned, the school's calling right now.
Oh, okay. Here.
Well, no, we're good. They hung up, but if they call again, I'm going to answer it. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, for sure. No problem. You can call them back.
I don't know what they're doing. Okay. Well.
Okay. So speaking of things not going perfectly.
So like there's going to be an interruption in something. Yeah. And so we've just kind of learned we call it putting on our flexible pants. Nice. In our home, kind of like not getting your panties in a wad, put on your flexible pants. That's where that came from. And it's so wonderful because we all kind of know what that means. And like, if we're having a night where it's like, he's having a meltdown and we just need to order pizza tonight, we can do that. Like there's so much flexibility and grace built into it. But at the same time, I have this system laid out where I know that after we eat dinner, everybody else needs to get ready for bed. They need to do their evening jobs and then they need to be in bed by this time. And so I can kind of not dictate, but the rest of the people know what to do and we can kind of follow that rhythm, even if I'm dealing with one that's kind of breaking down, Yeah.
So this is so good. So I'm seeing now my brain is open to believing that I do like systems and I do have systems and they are working, because that has been something that's improved lately is our morning routine, because now my kids are in school. When they were preschoolers and I just loved how they would sleep in and whatever, and it was so relaxed. That was then. And this is now. And so now we actually have to get out the door at a certain time. And so I wake them up and they have to be downstairs by this time and they have to be done with breakfast by this time and they have to be out the door by this time. And fighting the clock used to be a huge trigger for me. Like I would get so stressed out if I still do, but I mean, like this is a work in progress, right? And for some reason, like the morning is working. I'm not like so stressed out. And that's what I'm trying to figure out, what your thoughts are that make you flexible. Because I realized that like, even this morning, I was like, wait, why do I feel so calm right now? Because it was like the most off schedule of all days ever so far. And I was like, wait, why am I not freaking out? And I was like, because it's fine. Like, it's okay if it doesn't go as scheduled. And so to have a routine, but to be flexible means like, it's okay if it doesn't go as scheduled and we can make a plan B and we can adjust and whatever. But having it in place makes it less stressful in the first place, but that it's flexible makes it anyway. Wait, do you have something to say?
No,
I remember what
I agree with you.
There was something else I was thinking, but I can't remember now. Anyway, so awesome. Your turn while I think. What?
I love that y'all have a good morning routine set out. I feel like that starts your day off so much better. Yeah.
Well, and it's the classic age-old thing that I've heard forever and resisted forever, that if you want your day to go smoothly, you need to wake up before your kids and have your own morning routine. And I'm finally doing that. Like that literally has made all the difference. Oh, that's what it was. Okay. I'm glad I remembered. I just want to talk to you about back in the day, because like when you were like, I just went from 4 kids to 8 kids. There's no book about this. This is crazy. I want to talk about the transition from survival mode to like getting these things in place, because we look at you now and we're like, yeah, right, I can't get there. Or I even look at where I'm at now and where I was 6 months ago, and I would have thought, yeah, right, I can't get there. And so like, what are the baby steps to take when you're completely drowning to just get a little lifeline that like this is possible? Because it really is like line upon line. It's like one little thing at a time. It's not like you sit down one day, make this great schedule, and then all of a sudden you stick to the schedule, but you're flexible, but whatever. So like, what would you say to somebody who's like at square one almost, you know?
Yeah, I think so. First of all, I just want to say that there's so much permission to ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
And from you, from me, from a friend who has a gifting for this, like, it's okay to ask for help and just say, hey, I feel like I'm drowning.
Mm-hmm.
And tonight, if you could bless me by bringing a meal, if you could, sit down with me and help me look at my schedule and try to figure out what we could take off the schedule, or what I feel so overwhelmed by, like even helping me process all of that, that would be great. So definitely asking anybody for help. And so if you don't have a friend, by all means, calling one of us. And I feel like the worst place in the world to be is to feel like you're drowning in your own home, and to feel so overwhelmed and feel like if I don't know what I'm gonna do tomorrow morning when these people wake up, because it's taken everything out of me to live for today.
Yes.
I've definitely been there, and I know how extremely hard that can be. And so my heart in starting this business is to help moms in that space of just feeling like I don't know what I'm going to do, and I'm going to snap at all my children, and I like all the things. So
yeah. Me too. Especially when you say drowning. That's the word I always use, because I'm a lighthouse. I want to be a lighthouse that like helps the drowning moms out there on the rocky sea to like come in to the shore, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, because that's what it feels like, is drowning. And can I just say one more thing about drowning real quick? And then I definitely want to hear what you have to say, because I answered my question, but I keep talking. Drowning, breathing. Like if you're at square one and you need one quick tip, breathe. Like we literally are drowning because we're not breathing. That's what drowning is you're out of oxygen. So remembering to breathe, it's like an actual physical, and it like, there's so much brain science now and like physiological, like it's so awesome that like breathing helps you spiritually, emotionally, physically, all of the ways, mentally. Breathe. And like even just remembering to breathe puts the pause in there that like helps you like, not completely lose it on your kids, all the things. Like I just feel so in love with breathing right now. And especially because it's the opposite of drowning. So if you feel like you're drowning, is because you're not breathing. So like just remember to breathe. And then all this other stuff, right? So tell us what the other stuff is.
Yeah. So I think that hands down, the first step is to figure out what feels so overwhelming, and really just taking that time to assess your life, assess the things that you're doing, and assess like what about it feels overwhelming to you. I think that is a huge piece of it, because we live such reactionary lives. And so, you know what, when the kids get home, I feel so overwhelmed. Like everybody comes in and they tell me all these things, and there's stuff everywhere now, and it gets so loud. And so what can I do to help minimize that? Are there things I can put in place to help minimize that part of my day? Maybe it's like lighting a candle and having classical piano music playing, or maybe setting out snacks for them, so that way it's not a mad dash to like the kitchen and making a mess. Having a space to like for the kids to put their backpacks, so that way they all put their backpacks and their shoes and everything in one place,
and not expecting them to do that.
Yes.
And you patiently reminding them day after day after day that the stuff goes in the mudroom. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So just
not expecting myself to patiently remind them day after day, to expect that I'm going to get upset that they don't put it in their plate. All of that. Yeah. Keep going.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So all of those things, but I think just really figuring out what your triggers are as a mama, and what kind of sends you over the edge. And hey, are there things that, I mean, this is probably not step one, but just realizing things that like, hey, that frustrates me. Because when I came home as a kid, I remember walking into a clean house, and that was like one of my best parts of my day, was walking into a clean house and hearing the dishwasher running, and which sounds really weird. I know that was my best part of the day as a kid, but just coming home and there being peace there, and they're being calm there was huge for me. And so that's what I want for my home too. I want kids to be able to walk into a calm home. And then when they walk in and they're escalating it, like, how can I bring that back down? So just kind of doing some thinking on your triggers and what feels so overwhelming to you, I think is huge.
Yeah, for sure. So good. Trigger work is where it's at. Because if it triggers you, there's, some childhood wound that you need reparented about. And all of that sounds very woo woo or very like, I don't know what you're talking about. Then that's why we exist, right? It's what the coaches, the shrinks, the therapists, that everybody, we're all just trying to heal childhood wounds and, heal those triggers and, all the things. And it's not scary. It's fun, actually.
Yes.
It's so good. I can share an example of that, actually, because I'm doing some childhood wound healing because I have a specific daughter that tends to trigger me with like my thoughts are like, she's so clingy. She's so like, it's like when I'm overwhelmed and I just need some space, like she can like feel that. So that's when she wants more. And that's when I need less. And this has been going on for years. Like it's been like that forever in my mind as far as, and so instead of that whole story, like I dropped that whole story and I just focus on like, what does she need? I need it too, because she's like a physical representation of me at that age. And that's what I needed. And that's why I'm so triggered by her needing it, because I didn't get it. And so to give it to myself at that age, as I'm giving it to her, and just the most beautiful, just like hugs and snuggles, where I'm just like losing, I'm like crying because I'm like picturing hugging myself at that age too. And that's all I needed. And nobody would give it to me. And they're like, I'm overwhelmed. Like I have too many kids and I can't, and no one listens to me. Like I'm literally like, just be that kid and give myself what I need instead of the representation of like 30 years later that I didn't get it then. And it's been really fun. It's not, because I get scared of like digging into my past, like, or whatever, like it's going to be some scary thing but it's beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, it can be scary and hard.
Yeah.
But,
and I mean, everyone's had their own traumas that could like be scarier or harder or whatever, but it's like carrying them around is even harder than like actually
absolutely
feeling them. So.
Well, I've loved this. This has been such a fun conversation.
Yeah, for sure. So who knew systems were so fun?
I did.
Think about that word. I gotta dig into why the word systems is so triggering. Anyway, okay, so tell people where they can find you, what your offers are like right now, because it sounds amazing.
So mamasystems.net is my website, and
you can find that.
MAMA.
Okay, that kind of mama. Okay.
DEMS.
Yeah, we'll have all the links in the show notes and stuff.
Spell that right?
Yeah.
And then on Instagram and Facebook, same thing, Mama Systems. And I definitely have courses and stuff like that for regular mamas and special needs mamas. And I have a ticket system course that's perfect and wonderful. It's like $19, and you can get in there and learn how to incentivize your kids, and they have to earn tickets to do things around the house. And it's very magical. I get messages all the time about how magical it is. And so that's really fun. And then I offer one-on-one coaching, and we do a 90-day coaching program where we kind of get through every little section of your life and make sure that we're being most efficient, most productive, most intentional with those things. So
awesome. So fun. Okay. So find Laura, and we've got a little visitor here. If you want to see her video is on Spotify. And sometimes I get these up on YouTube. So I just want to plug my RBC real quick, because there's no outro to these videos. And PS, if you're going to look at the video, you got to see our matching pillows in the background. She's got a feeling wheel pillow too. So fun. I love my feeling wheel pillow. Okay. So relationship boost calls. That's what I'm doing this year. So it's just a quick 15 to 20 minutes. And you just come with a relationship in mind that needs a boost, and you'll get off the call boosted. It's magical, right?
I love that.
All about the magic. And so, go to dropthewar.com/appointments to sign up for an RBC. and you can have as many as you want, and they're completely free and no strings attached. It's just, I'm just ready to help anyone who's ready for a boost. So I will see you there. And thank you so much again, Laura.
Thank you, Emily.